Uh, as I was saying, we started last month, and today we are all right. Mr. Ishola, you are welcome. Mr. Ishola, you are welcome. Welcome to uh, the wealth creation principle from the prophet. Welcome from the wealth creation principle from the prophet. And Mr. Ishola, let us know where you are actually calling from. Let us know where you are calling from, so that we can uh, we can add you. We can add you. Mr. Ishola, let us know where you are calling from. Let us know where you are calling from, or where you are joining from. Sorry. Let us know where you are joining from. All right. So I was talking about eight wealth creation principles in this book. But for the purpose of this class or this meeting, we are talking about just four out of the the eight. All right, Mr. Olawale Olaside. Engineer, good to have you here. Good to have you here, engineer. It's been a very long time. It's been a very long time. Uh, we went to engineer's place for an executive meeting some time ago on entrepreneurship. All right. So we are looking at today four or two extra more aside from the the four that we look at the other day. Last month in January, we look at two wealth creation principles out of the four that I said we are going to discuss. But today we are looking at two extra, all from my book, Wealth Creation Principles that you need to know. You see, wealth building. Oh, Miss Okuneye, you are welcome. Good to have you here. Mrs. Okuneye is a chartered accountant. You are welcome. Thank you for joining this meeting. You are welcome. All right. So I discussed two out of the four, but today we are looking at the remaining ones. We are looking at the remaining ones. And last month we discussed uh, we look at the first one. We say relationship is the soul of every business. Relationship is the soul of every business. I have been in business for a long time, and not really that long, but close to two decades now in active business, maybe post NYC. But I've done businesses actually all my life, and I can bet you that relationship is key. Relationship is key. If you kill any relationship, you are killing a potential business. Yes, if you kill any relationship, you are actually killing a potential business. And that is why it is very, very essential for us to maintain good relationship. Now, every business transaction that had been brought to one or two of my businesses in time past, every project that I've been involved in, either for individuals, organizations, government, establishments, or whatever, they've all been brought down to one relationship, one profitable relationship, one relationship that I was well maintained and serviced, or the other. Because you see, the problem is that a lot of us, what we are after is money. Yes, not relationship. But the truth is, we don't know that money gravitates towards relationship. Relationship and money, they work hand in hand. So if you destroy a particular relationship because of money, you are actually saying, oh, you are not interested in that relationship again. All right. So there are quite a number of relationships that I've kept over the years. My children, my wife, everybody know that if I'm driving on the street, I will definitely see somebody that I know somewhere somehow. So we were looking at the book of Second Kings, chapter 4. The woman, the wife of the prophet, actually, that went to meet the prophet, said, your servant, my husband, is late. But the guy left us in debt. He left us in penury. We don't have anything. And the prophet told her, he said, go, what do you have in your house? The woman said she had nothing. She had nothing. Then later she came up to say, oh, I have one bottle of oil in one corner in my room that is just there. I don't know. Just that bottle of oil. It's just there, Sha. It's just there. Just like the way some of us talk that we don't have anything. Then one of the assignments that the prophet gave her was that go get that. If the prophet had instructed her to go get vessels, and she had been a bad person in the community, she had been a bad neighbor in the community, who will borrow her a vessel? Who will borrow her a vessel? Of course, now, not her that is even going out alone now to borrow those vessels. The prophet also asked her that she should send her children to also go out. You see, so it was not only her, both her and her children. So just put yourself in her shoes. You send your children out to go and borrow vessels, maybe big buckets, big bowls from other neighbors. What will be the reaction? What will be the reaction? What will be the reaction? What do you think the outcome will look like? So we discuss relationship. I won't dwell much on that again because I have dealt with that last week. Then also so the prophet, the second instruction was that she should go and borrow vessels, and she went ahead. You can trust me, she borrowed as many as she could. Then the second principle. So we said the first principle is relationship is the soul of every business. Relationship is the soul of every business. So at this point, we also say that is it that people won't offend you? No, people will offend you. As far as they are human beings, offenses will come. But the truth is, we must look for how to mend those relationships and keep those relationships and get them better. All right. So because in my language, in my mother tongue, my own side of the country where I came from. Okay, Mr. Avis, you are welcome. Good to have you. Mr. Avis was my senior in the university. All right, good to have you, sir. Long time. So we're talking about offense. So there will be offense because I was talking about, okay, from where I come from in Yoruba land in Nigeria, that they said there's an adage, there's a saying that eniti abad sunti laman jarun party, which means that the person you sleep beside, when you are actually rolling on the bed, of course, there's no way that you won't use your leg, your hand, or some part of your body to touch that person. So that's what we mean. But you see, you have to get over that. So the second principle of wealth creation that I mentioned last time was the principle of do not borrow to eat, but borrow for investment or to do business. So a lot of people, they end in poverty, they swim in poverty, they never go from zero to hero, they never have been able to amass wealth, they've never been able to become wealthy because they keep borrowing to eat. So they borrow to buy shoe, they borrow to buy bag, they borrow to buy phone, they borrow to buy all kinds of things that are not actually assets but liability. So do not borrow. There's what we call OPM, other people's money. You get to a level where you are no longer using even your money to do some business, to do some investment. But you see, this has to be strategic. This has to be strategic. It has to be strategic. So do not borrow to eat, but borrow for investment. Borrow for investment. Borrow for investment. One of the things that you have to look at is when the prophet instructed the woman to go and borrow, did not instruct her to go and borrow money to pay off the debt, did not instruct her to go and borrow money to pay off her debt, did not instruct her to go borrow something to, for what she's owing, but instructed her to go borrow for the purpose of an enterprise that was in Kula. an enterprise that was in the making for her. That was the reason, that was the only reason the prophet asked her to go borrow. So he said, borrow vessels, but don't borrow few, borrow plenty, borrow plenty. So to get to a point, there's something we call the Pareto principle, the 80-20 Pareto principle. How come? So the principle states that literally that 20% of your result is 80% of your result is as a result of 20% of your effort. 20% of your friends are responsible for actually 80% of the result that you get in life. 20% of your time, of your strategic use of time, is what gives you 80% of your returns. So 20% of your customers are actually the ones that gives you 80% of the money that flows into your organization. So how does this affect your business? So you will discover that there are people that is bank that is going after them. Bank is telling them, Oga, we have 50 million naira credit for you. Are you interested? We have $100 million for you. Are you interested? In fact, Oga, you must come and take this money. How come they are not coming to you? They won't come to you. The bank won't come to you because the bank have been able to identify their 20% that is giving them their 80%. So they will be interested in investing more into those 20% who will give them the 80% of the result. All right. So that is what happened with OPM. So you are looking for money. You are looking for vendors to come and patronize your business, to come and be supplying you some kind of goods. But the truth is, you are not among the 20%. You are just among the 80% who are just the crowd. So we must also look at this in our personal life. So who are those 20% in your life that have contributed to where you are now, to what you are now? Some of them may not give you money, but the truth is, their advice, their counsel, their relationship, seeing them alone gives you hope. All right. So who are those 20%? Who are those 20% in your life? All right. So today we are going to be looking at use what you have to get what you do not have. Using what you have to get what you do not have. A lot of people have been involved with several activities across board, different gender, different races, and the question or the people keep asking me is, I need help. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. I don't have anything. The truth of the matter is, what exactly do you have that you are not using? What is it that you have that you are not using? What is it that you have that you are not using? What is it that you have that you are not using? Because I've realized that everyone is got something. Everyone has something that they are not using. Everyone is endowed with a particular gift. Everyone is endowed with a particular asset. Everyone is endowed with something. Because I've come to conclusion that it's not what you don't have that is limiting you, but the things you have that you are not making use of. I will say that again. Somebody can help me type. It is not what you don't have that is your problem. It is the things you have that you are not making use of. So it can be a relationship, vital to you, a key person that you have stopped calling, or that you are not even calling, or that you are not getting in touch. But that person has useful information for you from time to time. It can be a friend. It can be a mentor. It can even be a mentee of yours. All right. So what is it that you have? And a lot of us also have some potential, some skills that are just potential. They remain potential. You have not turned them kinetic. You have not turned them to motion. You have not turned them to action. You have not actually been making money from them, but you have actually, because you have not seen them as something, as a gift. You have not seen them as asset. The woman in question, the prophet's wife, said something. She said, we don't have anything. We don't have anything. We don't have anything. And the prophet kept asking, what do you have? What do you have? So, oh, Daddy, thank you for joining. Reverend Dr. Isaac Ijalpo, thank you for joining. Good to have you on board, sir. Good to have you on board, sir. He's a good mentor. Thank you, sir, for joining this meeting. All right, so we are talking about what do you have that you are not using. So a lot of us have several potentials that we are not using. A lot of us have several assets that we are not using. When I'm asking my mentees or my trainees to do an assessment of, to do a kind of a SWOT analysis for themselves. SWOT, by SWOT, we mean S stand for strength. What is your strength? The W, what is your weakness? The O, what is your opportunity? And the T, what are your threats? So when I ask some people to do this, maybe some of them wants to start business, or some of them have been running businesses. One of the things that I want them to look at is, because a lot of time, thanks Daddy, a lot of times, most of us, we are not, we are actually, when I say, when I ask people who are probably looking for how to start their business venture, a lot of them tell me, oh, I'm looking for 100 million, I'm looking for 50 million, and all that and all that and all that. Then they fail to see what exactly is it that they need. Because a lot of the time, we don't actually even need the money. There's what we call asset parsimony. Asset parsimony. It means that you have something that can be used. So, for example, let me give you an example. When I was starting out my business, I had a table. I needed a table, and the cost of the table at that time was maybe around maybe a good table was around 15,000 naira or thereabout. Yes, around 15,000 naira or thereabout for a good table at that time. But I had a table that a carpenter made for me in Abeokuta that I paid 3,500 naira. Good table. I needed also, all I needed was I needed furniture. So if I decide to say, oh, I needed 15,000 naira, I may not get 15,000 naira, and the business won't kick off. So what did I do? That table, I went and just cleaned it up, and that was my first table in my first office. So I don't need 15,000 naira, I only need table. So that is asset parsimony. So what are the things that you need? Some of us, you need a vehicle. All you need is a vehicle. Stop telling me I need 5 million naira to buy a car for my business. No, you need a vehicle. You just need a vehicle. You can decide to know how much they sell a vehicle. Fine, it's okay. But all you need is a vehicle. So all you need to do is look around you. Who are those that probably has or have vehicles that they are not using around you? Your parents, your siblings, your friends. Who amongst them have a vehicle that is not useful to them? Can you lease it, or just have an arrangement with them if they can release it for you for the purpose of that business? Then you will discover that you don't actually need the money again, because what you're actually looking for, you got it. So that is what we call asset parsimony. So when I say what you don't have is not what is limiting you, but the things you have but you are not actually making use of. That is the problem. So a lot of us, we keep looking for so many things. We keep looking for what is not even missing. What that woman, the prophet widow needed was just that oil that was potentially in her house doing nothing. Only God knows how many days she has been in the same house with that oil. She did not realize the potential of that oil. There are several relationships around you that, honestly, if you can invest more into those relationships, they will bring more productivity to you. If you can look around you, there are several assets that you have that you can liquidate to start that business venture. There are several opportunities that are around you, but you are not actually looking in those directions because your mind is fixated on the things you don't have as the things that are limiting you, but forgetting the things that you have that you are not making use of. So I have seen several people. Now, I counseled a woman, a lady, a South African lady was my mentee on the Cherry Blair Foundation for Women years ago. And she was looking at starting a business in South Africa. And I kept asking, we have done SWOT analysis over and over again. We have done it over and over again. Then one day I just asked her, I said, see, let's even look at your SWOT again. What exactly are the things that you have in your life? Then we discovered that she had a 4-bedroom into a guest house. And honestly, before then, we have tried farming. She has suggested several things, wrote several business proposals, business plans, submitted to me, I vetted them. But I just knew that something was just wrong somewhere. Because all these figures we are looking for, she could not find her. Oh, thank you, sir. Pastor Toye. Thank you, sir. Good to have you here. Good to have you here. All right, so I just knew something was wrong with this my mentee, my South African mentee. And once she just mentioned that she has a 4-bedroom apartment that belongs to her, then the idea just came. I said, you can turn this house to a guest house. This is how to go about it. These are the things. What are the things you have in that house? Then she told me. She wrote the list. And by the time she gave me the list, we were able to come up with an idea. And today, she still runs, I'm talking about 7 or 8 years ago, she still runs that guest house. In fact, that guest house is not only a guest house now, but also has logistics arm of the guest house. So she's bought buses that convey people for picnics and so many other things. But imagine if she had not thought deeply to remember that she has a house, So some of us, we have some things. We have, Pastor Kayode, you are welcome. Pastor Ladimeji, thank you for joining. All right, so a lot of us, we are talking about asset parsimony. We are talking about using what you have to get what you need. Very, very essential. Very, very essential. I see a lot of people. I have met a lot of people who keep complaining, who keep giving me different excuses about the things they don't have. That is their problem. Some of them even tell me, oh, it's because of my background. It's because of the kind of parent that gave that to me. This, and that. All kinds. But the truth of the matter is, you have something. Some of us, we need, like I said, need to appraise our relationship. Some of us need to go home tonight and look at, what do I have really at home? Some of us need to look at, some of us have some certificates that are even dormant. You have never used those certificates to do anything. Then you are complaining about the things you don't have. You have something, because there's nobody that was actually created with nothing. Let me tell you this story about myself years ago. Years ago, I graduated from the university, done my NYSC, and I was a friend in Ibadan, in one of the remote areas in Ibadan. I never had money to even go out on daily basis, so I had to join my friend to go out. This day, an idea struck me, and so in my solitude, in my depressed state, an idea struck my heart. And of course, I was already in town. Then I needed to go back home. I didn't even have money to go back home. I had to trek from Mokola. I trekked to UI before I got a lift that took me home. And the idea that came to my mind was to write a particular book. If I want to shock you, that book, that I completed that book in just that same day. The idea came that same day. I completed that book that same day, and I can shock you that I've sold not less than 10 to 15,000 of that copy, copies of those books. In fact, it's an understatement to tell you I've sold 10, 15 copies and 15,000 copies. I've actually sold more than that. This book became a book that at a point in time, several higher institutions were using that book for academic purposes. This was a time that I felt I had nothing. An idea came. So some of us, an idea will strike you tonight that you need to make do with. An idea will strike you tonight that you need to work on. An idea will strike you tonight that you see you don't have option than to just look at that idea and see what you can do with that idea. Are we together now? So, because a lot of the time we complain about the things we don't have, that is our problem. We forget about the things we have, the things we have that we are actually not using. And honestly, there are several of such. There are several of such. There are several things that you are not using, several ideas that you have, but you are not using. Several ideas you have that you are not using. All right, several ideas that you have that you are not using. So I've just mentioned one of the ideas that I had to work on. I've just mentioned one of the ideas that I've had to work on. So you need to also look inward. You need to also look at yourself. You need to also look at your life. You need to also look at your relationship. You need to also look at certain things around you. You need to also look at what is it that you actually have that you are not using. What is it that you have that you are not using? All right. Max Weber said something. He said, heaven is not a dumping ground for the failures of the earth. Heaven is not a dumping ground for the failures of the earth. So the people, the reason they are not wealthy is that because they think, okay, heaven is a goal. Let me just get to heaven. That is the only thing I need. But the truth is, we are on earth first. So why not make it on earth and also make it in heaven? All right. So we need to look at the things we have that we are not making do or with. We need to look at some of the things that we have but are redundant. Some of us, we have some brilliant ideas that you just need to bring those ideas to limelight. You just need to work more on those ideas. You just need to ensure that those ideas, they come to limelight. Some of us, we have some relationships that are vital. So let me tell us this story about Professor Pat Utomi. We were in a meeting sometimes in 2019 with Professor Pat Utomi, the famous Professor Pat Utomi of Nigeria, and he shared his personal life story with us because we were just about maybe 20 in the room with him, and one of us just boldly asked him, "Sir, how did you get to this level that you are? How did you become who you have become today?" Then Prof said, one of the things that helped him, then he told us the story. The story was that as a child, his father was buying newspapers. So he was every day reading the economic analysis on newspaper. And that fascinated him. That helped him to develop interest in things that has to do with economies of nations and the likes, businesses and all that. Then after his PhD, he was back in Nigeria, squatting somewhere in a ghetto in Lagos with some of his friends. Then he said that every time he will write some economic analysis and give to some of his friends. Our mommy, you are welcome. Mr. Aderiola Olotede, you are welcome. All right, good to have you here. So he said, Professor Patutomi said, he will write some of those economic whatever analysis, his own views and all that, and give to some of his friends to just read. And they will read, they will laugh, they will pat him on the back and say, Pat has written another thing. Then one of them eventually got a job with a newspaper company. Then the guy started publishing some of those his write-up in those magazine or in those newspapers. He said then somebody in Aso and then Dondon Barrack in Lagos, Nigeria, stumbled on those material, and each time they read it, they enjoy it. Then one day they just said, who is this guy that is writing all these things? It's like the guy is brilliant. It's like the guy has some idea. Then they invited the guy that was the columnist that was writing, putting all those things on the newspaper. Then his friend contacted him, and by the time his friend contacted him, they eventually went to Dondon Barrack, okay, to see the president. Before they met with the president at that time. It was Chief Kuku. He said Chief Kuku was the contact that was set to go and get that his friend. And by the time they met Chief Kuku drove them to Dondon Barrack, then in Lagos. You know, our Federal Capital Territory hasn't moved from Lagos to Abuja at that time, where we now have our Aso Rock in Nigeria. So when he got there, he said then he was meeting with the vice president of the country at that time, because Chief Kuku happened to be a friend to the vice president of the country, Nigeria, at that time. And they said, oh, you are the one that has been writing all those write-ups. We want you to come up with some things on economics for this nation, some models that can work for this nation, Nigeria, at that time. Then they asked him, how many days will it cost him? Then, in naive, a young man at that time said he was just a young guy, maybe around 25 or thereabouts. Yeah, he said, and he said, so you want, young men now, young men like money. Young men like money. So he said, he just told them, oh, you will pay me, oh. You will pay me, oh. And then people said, keep quiet. You are in front of the vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let's share this video, please. Let's share. I want other people to join. Let's share. Please, let's share. Let's share it to our links, to our contacts. Let our friends, let them, join the links, and let them join us on this platform. Okay, so that was how Chief Kuku drove him back. Then he gave them time and all that. That was how Chief Kuku drove him back to his personal house, to his personal residence with his friend. So how long will it take you to come up with this document, with this information that we just discussed now? Then he told Chief Kuku that it was going to take him maybe 2 or 3 weeks. I can't remember now. Then he said, Chief Kuku said, when we were at the meeting with the vice president at that time, you were mentioning money. How much exactly do you really want us to pay you for this project that we're giving unto you? Then, as a young man who was living, maybe squatting, maybe, I don't know, maybe in a room, or maybe, in one place, shy in Lagos, then he said he told the Chief Kuku, he just thought of it that 10,000, 5,000. Well, just mentioned one crazy figure to himself. He said at that time he wants to buy. If you want to buy a Beetle, you could buy a brand new Beetle to Volkswagen Beetle with just a sum of 1,500 naira. Then he thought to himself, if I want to rent a 3-bedroom flat in this Lagos so that we can start bubbling in this Lagos, then everybody will know this is the amount. Then he just calculated everything and just gave one stupid figure like that, maybe around 3,000 naira or 5,000 naira. He said Chief Kuku then entered into his house and brought 10,000 naira and said, oh yeah, take. I need that document urgently. They were just paying him for something that an idea that he already have. He said he just went home. Just in how many days? He just compiled all the things that he had been writing in some places that his friends were just reading and they would laugh it off. That was what he had. And that was eventually the document he submitted that started to the president at that time. And that was how the opportunity started. And then. Look at it now. It started from just having an idea to write on economic matters. That was all he had. You know, we are talking about using what you have to get the things that you don't have. Professor Patutoni said all he had at that time was that he had the gift to write. He had the talent to write on economic matters, and he will write it. He did not keep it to himself. He was writing it and giving it to his friends to read just for fun. Then one of them started publishing it for him on a popular newspaper. So if he had not started, he had not taken steps to be writing those things and giving to his friend to read, who will know him? Who will even see him? Will his friends be able to even publish him? So what are the things that you have that you are not using? What are the things that you have that you are not using? That prophet's wife. In fact, I will say that the prophet himself was a gullible man, because how will you have that anointing oil inside your house and you don't know the potential it carries? And the guy just kept on. So he asked an asset that could liberate his entire generation, that could make him richer, that could make him wealthier. But instead of that, he did not use it, but kept it just there for decoration. Some of us, our car is meant to be our initial capital. Some of us, our phone is meant to be our initial capital. Some of us, that house. I was reading some time ago about our own billionaire in Nigeria, Otedola, who said that his first house, he had to sell it to buy the first truck, or maybe a truck that he was using to do oil business at that time. So using what you have, the problem we have is that it's not what we don't have that's limiting us, but the things we have that we are not actually making do with, that we are not using. I have a few questions here that you need to answer. Those questions are actually from that my book, Business Arts, 8 Wealth Creation Principles from the Prophet. So so let me quickly run through a few of the questions. So question number 1, so you need to ask yourself, you might need to ask yourself some of these questions. Number 1, what are my previous experiences, either formal or informal? What are those experiences that you've got that can become a valuable asset to you for the next step? What 2 things am I the best at? What 2 things are you very good at? What 2 things are you very good at? Now, I am talking now, and by the grace of God, I'm not only a minister that is a minister of the gospel, preaching the gospel. I am also talking to make money. I'm doing coaching, I'm doing mentoring, I'm training, I'm facilitating sessions for corporate organizations, for businesses. I was telling you the other time that I was doing a coaching for Cherry Blair Foundation, for Women United Kingdom, and several of the organizations that I've been part of. So I talk. So now my talking is a strength, is no longer a weakness. A teacher was talking about, one of my child the other time said the guy talks too much. I said, leave him, let him talk. Let him just be able to channel that talking into a productive talking. Now, if people are listening to me, people are buying my books. I talk. I remember, okay, let me not tell you this story because of our time. I will tell you that story another time. So, question 3. Who do I think might need those skills or knowledge that I have? Who do I think might need those knowledge or those skills that I have? Who do you think might need those skills or those knowledge that you have? Question 4. Where can I find those who might need the knowledge and the skills that I have? So, who are those? Have you identified those that will need your skill, your knowledge, your asset that is a potential that you have not been making use of? Question 5. Who do I need to discuss this conflict? We have some ideas. We are not discussing. We don't even can trust even our stupidity. All right. So you kept those things to yourself. You are not discussing them. You are not, seeing those ideas, those assets, those things, those skills, those ideas, those information, you just kept them to yourself, and the idea is just there with you. So who are those? Have you identified people that you can share some of those ideas with, that will encourage you, that will put you through, that will come and came for about a month now, and there has not been time. So he came around. Mr. Sikiru Olago, you're welcome. You're welcome. That's my neighbor. You're welcome, sir. So, this young man is my mentee, and he came to discuss a business idea with me. And honestly, as he was discussing the idea, I asked somebody who already was looking for somebody with that idea for some kind of relationship. So, a lot of times, some of us need to have people that we need to discuss some ideas with. We need to discuss some of our intentions with. We need to discuss some of our thoughts with. We need to discuss some of the things that we are seeing with. And some of these people can help us. I have about 13 questions in that book. That I may not have time to go through today, because I want to ensure that today I complete these 2 principles that I need to discuss with us. All right. So the principle number 4 is the principle of no work, no pay. No work, no pay. Even the Bible makes us to understand that anybody that does not work is not entitled to food. Anybody that does not work should not eat. Anybody that is not doing anything productive to add value to himself, to herself, to the community, to the society, to the family, should not eat at all. So the prophet, one of the instructions that the prophet gave to the woman, the prophet's wife, was in 2 Kings chapter 4 verse 3. He said, I will read it. He said, then he said, go, borrow the vessels abroad of all thy neighbors, even empty vessels, borrow not a few. That is an instruction to get to work, to get to business, to leave our comfort zone, to go do something, to type something on social media, to search for information, to pick your phone and call somebody, not to beg them for money, not to, but to tell them about something you are thinking about, something productive. The prophet had to tell her, you have to go out, go and borrow. Going out to borrow vessel is work, because honestly, people don't naturally want to. Now, I was giving an example last month that if we all know women, that some of them, they have yellow bag, but if they still attend a function, or they still find somebody or they still walk into a store or whatever, and they see another bag that is even that color, they don't mind to say, oh, this is even bigger than the one I have at home, let me buy. This is smaller than the one I have at home, let me buy. So if somebody is sent now to go out, to go and be borrowing drums, buckets, vessels that belongs to other women, and those women will release it, you will know that such a person has a good will. Such a person has good will. Such a person has good reputation. Such a person has social capital. Such a person must